Welcome to Legal Services of Greater Miami's training video on making collection calls to the Internal Revenue Service. My name is Mary Ann David, and I'm an attorney here at Legal Services. I'm also the director of our Low-Income Taxpayer Clinic, or the LITC. The LITC is a joint venture, joint project between Legal Services and the IRS, where the IRS provides matching funds so that we can provide tax representation to low-income taxpayers. Many of the taxpayers that actually come to our office don't have tax controversies with the Internal Revenue Service, meaning that they don't have a dispute as to whether they owe the amount, but that they can't pay the amount. They usually can't pay it, or they can't pay it at the level that Internal Revenue Service is demanding that they pay it. So much of the work that we do in the LITC is meeting with clients, analyzing their financial situation, and discussing whether they can make payments to the IRS each month, and if so, how much they can pay. We then call the IRS to try to work out those arrangements. This video is designed to run through the process as a training for pro bono attorneys who are not tax attorneys. There's a financial analysis form that I use when I'm reviewing finances with my clients. This form is available for download with this video. The form includes lines for information that the IRS will request when you call, things like assets, bank accounts, balances, income, and expenses. Most of the expenses you have to prove to the IRS, but certain ones you do not. These are called national standards, or in some cases they're local standards to Miami-Dade County. The form that I use includes the national standards for food, housing, transportation, and out-of-pocket health care expenses. You'll notice that I refer to these items during this video. So we'll go ahead and start with an initial meeting with the taxpayer or the client.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Hi, my name's Mary Ann David. I'm at Legal Service. I'm an attorney here at Legal Services. What brings you in this morning?
Well, I received this notice from the IRS, and it says that I owe $5,000, and if I don't pay, they'll levy on my wages, Social Security benefits, or my bank account. I don't have $5,000, and I can't afford to make any payments each month right now.
And do you know why you owe the IRS $5,000?
Well, in 2010, I was referred to a tax return preparer who was known in the community for being really good at preparing tax returns and getting the largest refunds possible for people. So I really needed the money and went to see him. I gave him all of my information. He filled out the tax returns, and I thought it was great because I got $4,000 back. After that, though, I got a notice from the IRS, and it said that they were examining my tax return and to send certain documentation proving that the dependent I claimed on my tax return was related to me and lived with me. I didn't have any dependents, so I went to the tax return preparer to see what was going on, and I couldn't find him, and so I called the IRS on my own, and the agent told me that I was not allowed to claim some credit. I think it was called the Earned Income Credit. And so now I had to pay that money back. And the agent also told me that I had to pay interest and penalties. So now I owe around $5,000.
That is really too bad about the preparer. Unfortunately, that's a story that I hear quite a lot here in South Florida. In the future, the IRS does sponsor sites where you can get your tax return prepared for free. They're called VITA, or Volunteer Income Tax Assistance sites, and you can contact them at 800-908-9887, or you can look them up at irs.gov. Even though the tax return preparer caused this problem for you, you received money you weren't entitled to, and you are going to have to pay it back with interest. Why don't we take a look at your finances and determine whether you can make any payments, and if so, how much. I have a form that we can use when we do this. So first, how much money do you earn each month?
Well, I injured myself last year, so right now I'm only receiving about $1,500 in Social Security disability benefits each month.
Okay, so if you're receiving Social Security, the IRS could take as much as 15%. That would be $225 a month, leaving you with $1,275 to live on. Let's continue and see if you can afford to have this levy and still meet your basic living expenses. Are you receiving any food stamps or other cash assistance?
Right now I'm receiving $50 in food stamps.
All right, so that's a total of $1,550 a month in income. We'll use the national standard for food. For a one-person household, that's $534. Let's look at your housing expenses. Do you own or rent?
I rent. I pay $600 a month in rent, $50 for the lights, and $40 for my phone.
Okay, that's $690, and that's less than the local standard for housing in Miami-Dade County, so no problem with that. And how do you get around town? Do you have a car or do you use the bus?
No, I don't have a car. I just use the bus.
All right, so the local standard for public transportation here is $182. How about medical costs? Do you have any?
Yeah, I spend about $200 each month on pain management, which my insurance and Medicaid doesn't cover. So I have receipts to show that I pay those $200 each month.
Okay, so as long as you have the receipts to prove that, we can go ahead and take it. Otherwise, you would be limited to the national standard for out-of-pocket health care, which is $60 a month. Do you have any other expenses?
I pay $70 a month for my DirecTV.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and leave that off because I think with what you've given me already, you should qualify for currently non-collectible or CNC status. And the IRS won't really recognize the $70 for the DirecTV. So CNC status means that the IRS recognizes that you have a financial hardship that makes it impossible for you to make payments at this time. So they stop trying to collect it from you, so they wouldn't try to levy on your Social Security. Interest and penalties would continue to accrue, and any tax refunds or stimulus payments in the future would be offset towards this tax debt. Do you want to call the IRS right now to ask them to place you into the status?
Yes, I think that would be best.
Oh, okay. Actually, I have a couple more questions before we go on. Do you have a bank account?
I do. I have a checking account at Bank of America where my Social Security disability benefits are deposited into each month, and I only have $20 in that though right now.
All right. And on your tax return, is it just you or do you have some dependents?
Yes, only me.
Okay. And do you own any real estate, cars, assets, or other investments?
No.
All right. And do you have any credit cards or other debts?
I had a Home Depot credit card and I still owe $800 on it, but I haven't been able to make payments for about a year.
All right, that should do it for the questions. We're going to go ahead and call the IRS. This is how it works. I'll call and identify who I am and why I'm calling. The agent's then going to ask to speak to you, and they're going to ask you questions to make sure that you are who you say you are and that you're authorizing me to speak to you. They'll ask you for your name, your address, Social Security number, date of birth, and your filing status, which in your case would be single.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about this?
Well, what happens if I get on the phone and the IRS agent starts to bully me or ask me to pay the money right now?
That's a really good question. If that happens, then you'll go ahead and tell the agent that you want them to speak to me about your problem. And sometimes if your answers don't match the IRS's records, the IRS won't speak to us because they'll think it's a case of identity theft. In that case, we'd have to file a power of attorney, but that rarely is the case. So if you want, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
The number to call for the IRS Automated Collection Service is 800-829-7650, unless the taxpayer notice indicates a different number. When you call, don't pick any of the options. It's going to give you about 6 or 7 of them because once they finish, they'll roll it over to an agent to assist you. The wait time is usually about 15 to 30 minutes. It could be 45 minutes. We have somebody on standby, so we'll go ahead and call now.
Hello, this is IRS agent Ms. Watson. Badge number 1000-1234-1234. How may I assist you today?
Hello, my name is Mary Ann David. I'm an attorney at Legal Services of Greater Miami. I'm calling on behalf of one of my clients, Mr. Joe Smith. May I put Mr. Smith on to authorize you to speak to me about his case?
Yes, but what is the nature of the call?
Mr. Smith just received a notice of levy for a $5,000 tax debt. Mr. Smith is unable to pay at this time, so we're going to be requesting that he be placed on CNC status for now.
Okay, I will need to speak with the taxpayer, please.
Okay, Mr. Smith, this is Ms. Watson, IRS agent.
Hi, Miss Watson. This is Joe Smith, and I'd like for you to talk to Miss David about my case.
Okay, I hear that you'd like for me to speak to your attorney, but first I must ask you a few questions to verify who you are. First, can you tell me your full name?
Joseph Aberforth Smith,
And what is your social security number?
123456789.
What is your address?
123 Main Street, Apartment 4, Miami, Florida 33131.
What filing status did you use in your last tax return?
Single.
And what is your date of birth?
January 1st, 1980.
So are you able to send us $5,000 right now?
I really would like for you to speak to Miss David about my case.
Hi, Ms. Watson. Was there any problem with my client's authorization?
No, we can proceed.
I'm ready then. I have my client's Form 433F here, the collection information statement, and I'm ready to give it to you right over the telephone.
Well, why don't you just mail it in with your request for CNC status, and we will get right back to you.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Smith has received a notice of levy, so this is a matter of some urgency. If we don't take care of it right away, the IRS might start levying his disability benefits, and then Mr. Smith would not be able to meet his basic living expenses.
All right. Well, let's get started then. Does Mr. Smith have a bank account?
Yes, he has a checking account at Bank of America. The account number is 987654321, and the balance in the account right now is $20.
How many dependents does he claim on his tax return?
Just himself.
Does he own any real estate, cars, assets, or other investments?
No.
And does he have any credit cards?
None active right now. He had a Home Depot card that has a past due balance of about $800 on it. He used to try to make small payments toward the balance, but he hasn't been able to make any payments in over a year.
And who is Mr. Smith's employer, and how much does he earn?
He is disabled and he's unable to work. His sole source of income right now is $1,500 in Social Security disability benefits and $50 per month in food stamps.
How much is Mr. Smith's food and other household expenses?
We'll take the national standard on that. That's $534.
And how much are Mr. Smith's housing expenses?
His rent, lights, and telephone total $690 per month.
Okay, so I see that totals $1,224 by my calculations. So it appears that Mr. Smith should be able to make monthly payments of $326 a month.
But wait, Mr. Smith has some other allowable expenses. He doesn't have a car, so he uses public transportation. The national standard for that is $182. In addition, Mr. Smith does have some out-of-pocket medical expenses of $200 each month. We have invoices and payment receipts here to prove that expense, so I can fax them to you right now.
Okay, so go ahead and fax those to 800-123-4567. And based on the information provided, it looks like Mr. Smith should qualify for CNC status. I'll go ahead and submit this request for managerial approval. I don't see any problem with this, but if we have further questions, the IRS will call Mr. Smith. And if we're unable to reach him, we'll send him a letter to contact us. And if he does not contact us, this request will not be approved. So if all goes as expected, Mr. Smith should receive a letter confirming his CNC status in about 14 days. So please tell him that he will receive an annual reminder notice from us about this debt, that interest and penalties will continue to accrue, so he should make voluntary payments as he is able, and that he needs to call us back to make payment arrangements should his financial circumstances improve, and that he needs to make sure to file and pay taxes as they come due, or we can revoke the CNC status. Do you have any further questions?
No, thank you very much for your assistance today.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
So once I finish the call, I would go ahead and tell my client the things that the IRS agent told me, things about the annual reminder notice, interest and penalties, voluntary payments. You heard that, so I won't repeat them now, but that's typically what I do. And Mr. Smith, this is the extent of the service our office is able to provide to you. Will you please let me know if you don't get the letter in about 30 days or if the IRS does start levying your benefits?
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much.
Okay, my pleasure. Take care. So that's about how a collection call goes with our typical client. Of course, if the financial analysis showed that your client could make some modest payments, say $25 to $50 per month, then when you reach the IRS, you would tell the agent that you were calling to assist your client with entering into an installment agreement with the IRS. The financial analysis would all be the same, but at the end, you would tell the agent how much your client proposes to pay each month and when and the day of the month that they can make that payment. If you go the installment agreement route, you'll need to make sure the client knows that there is a fee for this. The fee is $105. Most of our clients will usually qualify for the reduced user fee of $43. If the client is willing to have the payment direct debited from his bank account, the installment agreement fee would be $52. I hope you found this video to be informative and helpful. If you're interested in assisting our LITC with this type of work, please contact our office. The number is 305-576-0080. You can also get a complete listing of all of the LITCs in Florida by visiting our website at lsgmi.org and clicking on the quick link for the Low Income Taxpayer Clinic on the left side of the page. Thank you and have a nice day.